Do you have a dream car? Mine is the Lucid Air. Are you intrigued by electric vehicles? The Lucid Air EV has been called the best driving car in the world. And the Lucid Air Sapphire is certifiably the fastest production car in the world. Listen to Lucid Driver Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts or at luciddriver.buzzsprout.com. I've cruised 38 years, the first 25 years or so without insurance. Then a friend told me his dad had a massive heart attack on a cruise port stop. He was hospitalized in the island country, then medevac to the Cleveland Hospital, one of the top hospitals in the country. The cost for the medevac flight, $80,000, all covered by travel insurance. I have purchased travel insurance ever since.
Welcome to the Joy of Cruising podcast with your host, award-winning author Paul C. Thornton, a weekly conversation with the amazing cruisers featured in the Joy of Cruising books, comprised of The Joy of Cruising, Cruising Interrupted, new release, The Joy of Cruising Again, as well as other fun, informative global cruise personalities. It's the next best thing to cruising, hearing about cruising from the unique and diverse perspectives of Paul's amazing guests. If you hear about a cruise that interests you, book it at www.thejoyofvacation.com or enter to win a free cruise for two. Again, www.thejoyofvacation.com. We really appreciate your feedback, so leave us a text. Paul can't reply, but he may read your text on the air.
Hello, passionate cruisers. This is Paul, and this week on the Joy of Cruising podcast, I am delighted to welcome Scott Fleming, president of Aon Affinity Travel Practice. Scott and his team work closely with major cruise lines to help design travel protection programs for today's travelers. Given the Joy of Cruising podcast audience passion for cruising, Scott can offer a helpful, practical perspective on what cruisers should know about helping protect their trip before they set sail. Scott Fleming is president of Aon Affinity Travel Practice, where he leads customized travel protection programs for some of the world's most recognized travel companies. With more than 17 years of experience in the travel insurance industry, Scott has built a reputation for strengthening partnerships, giving product strategy, and driving growth across the industry. I will ask Scott to address common disruptions that can impact cruises, common questions travelers should ask about protecting their trips, why demand is increasing for travel insurance benefits like emergency evacuation and supplemental medical coverage, how to compare travel protection policies, what first-time and seasoned cruisers often misunderstand about travel protection. Scott brings an approachable perspective that can help listeners feel more informed and prepared before their next sail. Welcome, Scott, to the Joy of Cruising podcast.
Thank you, Paul. I am so thrilled to be here today. Thank you for having me on. Can't wait to get into cruising and travel insurance and all good things. So really appreciate the opportunity. It's great to be here. Great to meet you.
So how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing really, really well. Life is good. I'm very blessed. Yeah, things are good. It's a great time to be alive. It's a great time to be in cruising for sure. So I'm happy to be here talking about what I love. Yep.
Before we talk about your unique perspective, tell our listeners some basics about yourself, where you're from, where you live, anything you are willing to share.
Sure. I am willing to share it all. I am from Dallas, Texas. That is where I live now. Aside from living in the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area for a few years, in the early 2000s, I've been here all my life. It's where my family is, my wife's family. I have been married for 24 years. We have 7 kiddos. which I know makes us weird, but it is exciting. And never in a million years would I have thought I'd have 7 kids, but I'm super blessed and absolutely love it. And we have 4 boys, 3 girls. So life is good. Oldest is 19, youngest is 6. They're about every year and a half to 2 years between that. So I got the full experience. And it's like I said, would never have thought I'd have 7 kids, but I wouldn't have it any other way. It's wonderful. No twins, all one-offs. Give you all the frequently asked questions. But life is very good. So that's me here in Dallas. I work for the Aon Travel Practice. So I lead the travel practice as president. I've been in that job for a little over a year now, and having the time of my life. And we are very focused on cruising. So I'm excited to be part of the cruise industry, which I know we'll get into. Um, Thrilled about that. I've been in the travel insurance business for about 17 years now. Have an interesting story, I think, about how I got into it. But I'd say that's me in a nutshell, and happy to drill down on anything.
Hey, Scott, of your 7 kids, who's your favorite? I kid. So sometimes I've asked guests, uh,
Yeah.
what's their favorite cruise line or what's their favorite cruise ship? And
Yeah.
a couple of guests have gotten quite offended. They say that's like asking me who's my favorite kid. so
Yeah. Yeah.
so here was an opportunity to actually ask who's your favorite kid.
Right. Oh man, I love them all
there,
infinitely. It depends on the day,
there
Paul.
you go.
So,
There you go. Uh,
and my favorite cruise ship is whichever one I'm on at the
no,
time.
I like
So
that answer. That's
yeah,
my standard answer. So you said
yeah.
you had an interesting story about uh, I think something about how you became familiar with the cruise industry. Let's hear that story.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's how I got into insurance. Um, like most folks,
Oh,
I didn't.
insurance, so not specifically
Yeah,
cruise insurance. Okay.
yeah. And that's certainly what led to cruise. And I was, lucky to end up on the end of travel insurance that is focused on cruise, which is a fantastic industry. But I have a degree in computer science, so I'm kind of a coding, engineering, software nerd by trade, and was very excited once I got out of college to be on the business side. And the opportunity at that time for me, this would have been 2009, 2010, was in insurance and in travel insurance in particular. And so I worked for a company at that point, Transamerica Casualty, where Aon was my largest client. So that is briefly how I went from an engineer to actually like a corporate marketing quantitative research guy, because I had all the maths from computer science. And then that led to getting on the business side of things. So a little bit of underwriting, a little bit of how are we going to grow the business. And the opportunity for me was in travel insurance. And, it's pretty neat the way things work out. I couldn't have planned it better. And I've been in the industry now for, I guess, 16, 17 years, and was on the carrier side. So Transamerica was an insurance carrier for about 10 years, and I joined Aon in 2019. So my largest client, had worked with them for years. So I always say I was part of the extended family, and now I'm part of the family. So
You know,
yeah.
I'm up to over 250 episodes, but you are the first representing the perspective of the insurance industry, or in specifically the cruise and travel insurance industry. And
Sure.
but I've always known that I wanted someone uh, to talk about insurance. As you heard at the top of this recording, I tell the story about. I mean, I went without travel insurance well into my adult years, uh,
Mm,
and
yeah.
I'm embarrassed to admit that now. especially I own a travel agency now. Uh,
Yeah.
but I mean, I was maybe in my, I don't know, 50s without traveling without insurance.
Yeah.
And then a friend of mine shared that story with me that I shared at the top of this episode. And his
Mhm.
dad was on a cruise and somewhere in South America, Central America, I don't remember where, but on an excursion, he had a heart attack and he was hospitalized, locally. Uh, I don't know what the quality of their facilities were, but clearly they weren't up to the quality of the Cleveland Hospital, which was in his home state. And
Right.
so he was flown in critical condition from wherever he was to the Cleveland Hospital at a cost of $80,000 and didn't pay a penny.
Yeah.
And when I was told that story, I've never traveled without insurance again. Never. So I am so glad to have you to get you on the show because I've just been looking and looking for the right person to just represent that perspective. Let me ask you a general question. What makes cruising uh, such a unique travel experience from your perspective?
Yeah, great question. And first of all, I'm honored to be your guest talking about travel insurance. That is so exciting to me. So again, thank you. Deeply appreciative. Um, Cruising, what I when I view it, I think it's wonderful to have everything, I'll call it kind of self-contained and easy. Cruising removes the burden of having an agenda. For me, and I'm speaking from personal experience and what I enjoy about it, I don't have to worry about where I'm going to be or when I'm going to be there or what I have to do. I mean, you can plan excursions and things like that. It's great. You don't have to worry about your luggage moving from one hotel to the other, put it on this bus or train or fly here, or there. It's all there. It's all packaged for you and it's all at your fingertips too. If I want to go eat here, I can go eat there. If I want to get a drink at the bar, I can. If I want to go get some sunshine on the deck at the pool, I can do that. If I want a spa day, it's just the most self-contained, low stress. I'm more relaxed after a cruise vacation, I think, than I have been from virtually any other. Um, I love days at the beach. They're great, super relaxing. You have the sand, you got to wash that off. You got to get the towels, you got to, which is lovely. It's wonderful. But the cruise, I just go out there, have a cabana or a lounge at the pool, relax, and I don't have to worry about anything. Room's cleaned when I get back. All my stuff is there wherever we stop. So just that self-contained, incredibly low stress, every wonderful thing at your fingertips. I love about it. The food's amazing. The shows are great. It's so much fun.
Have you observed any trends or changes in the way people approach cruise travel?
I think the biggest trend I've seen is just the increase in demand and interest in cruising over the time I've been in the industry. And I think that is skewing younger. I think that all of the lines have done an incredible job at creating an amazing experience on board. I think the quality of virtually every aspect of the cruise, from the room, the space, the food, has improved dramatically. The variety of what you can do on a cruise, I think, has come a long way. Certainly the island experiences, many of the lines have their own island experience, so you can get that beach cabana, kind of feel as part of your cruise as well, combining that. Um, I feel like some of those trends have contributed and kind of the, you know, all-inclusive nature to making cruising just an amazing way to have a very relaxing vacation or see the world for that matter.
Well, what about trends regarding travel insurance? Is it
Sure.
increasingly being used? Is it staying
It
steady?
it is. It is. And I know at this point, none of us wants to hear the word pandemic ever again, but I can't talk about travel insurance and trends without talking about the pandemic. I feel like travel insurance, I don't feel like I know travel insurance, there was demand before, but certainly with the pandemic, the awareness across all demographics of consumers of the value and the need for travel insurance went up markedly. I mean, post pandemic, everybody bought travel insurance. They realized the value, why it's there. I think that really put the market on the map in the US. Certainly, when you go international, it was, depending on your geography and medical coverage, it was big in many countries already. But for the US, I think that was a big shift. Uh, I think there are other contributing factors. I think the amount of weather delays, mechanical delays, um, you know, I think this is getting better now, but like pilot crew shortages for a while, there was a dip there, still high demand for, I think that created some delay pressure. So I think in general, people were experiencing uh, more impacts, more interruptions on their trip from a variety of, different, I guess, kind of different causes. And so I think that's been the biggest thing is just an increase in awareness and an increase in some of those risks and interruptions that people have experienced that really put it on the map.
You know,
So,
I kind of wonder how much has social media contributed to
cool.
to
Yeah.
to just an anecdote. I saw something on social media. Now this is something that I would never have thought about. Even like I said, I started getting travel insurance regularly after I heard that story, and I think I was in my 50s. But but
Mhm.
I'm sure there's a lot of people uh, who are in their 20s and 30s and
Mm.
40s and saying, well, I'm in perfect health, I'm athletic, I don't need
Right.
travel insurance. And then I saw on social media this couple, I think it was a mother and daughter, and they went somewhere and they rented like go-karts or scooters or some kind of recreation
Yeah.
vehicle. Uh,
Right.
and they were driving legally, had helmets on, did nothing wrong, but a car
Mm.
crashed into both of them at the same time. Uh,
Mm.
they were both,
Right.
hospitalized, in many broken bones. Neither had travel insurance, and you know, so stories like that, and they go viral, and maybe some people say,
Yeah.
"Wow, I better never let
I
that happen to me."
Yeah, I agree with you, Paul. I think that's a great, great call out. That shared story from social media, we've certainly seen a lot of that. I recall, I think it was Royal that had a world cruise that was viral on social media. So people see that, see what's going on, and to your point, they see when things happen, and it doesn't matter how healthy you are, how active you are, things can happen to your point. And so I think people get, you're right, a new level of visibility rather than just knowing someone that something happened to. We all kind of have this shared story from things like that that go viral. That's great. I hadn't really thought much about that. Yep.
I want to ask you some specifics about Aon, but before I do, one thing I like to do with every guest that I have on the show, because I have, in addition to a lot of cruisers obviously listening, I have a lot of aspiring cruisers. So I always like
Hmm.
to ask guests to to say something about their first cruise, just to give these aspiring cruisers, you know, a touch point, so a sense of what someone else experienced. So, when, and on what ship was your first cruise?
We'll be right back.
The Joy of Vacation by Dream Vacations invites you to join us on a bucket list adventure to Africa. We're going to Kenya and Egypt for 14 days, April 10th through April 24th, 2027. A week in Kenya, including safaris, and a week in Egypt, including the pyramids and a 4-day Nile River cruise. This adventure includes air from the U.S., all transfers, all accommodations, private tours, and many meals. $5,000 to $5,500, depending on air, per person. Double occupancy. Only $250 per person deposit due at booking. The remainder is not due until late 2026. For a detailed itinerary, online brochure, and to book, email me at pthornton, THORNTON, pthornton @dreamvacations.com.
So my first cruise, and I'll be honest with you, I am a brand new cruiser.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I am. You can imagine, Paul, with a family of 7 kids, my wife and I, you multiply anything by 9, that's a really big number. So we tend to be pretty contained on our vacations, and it tends to be road trips. We might rent an Airbnb or something in like Broken Bow, Oklahoma, where it's beautiful river hiking, where we can drive to, which we may drive down to Galveston now that my wife and I have had the experience. But we were, lucky and thankful, grateful. Norwegian Cruise Lines actually invited us on their inaugural sailing for the Luna. So this was in, I think, late March, I believe, or April.
Very nice.
So this was our first real taste. I had toured ships because of my job, toured the medical facilities, things like that. But this was really our first real cruise together. And and my wife will tell you this, we are cruisers for life now. So,
well, that was going to be my next question. Was going to be what was your impression? Do you think you'll do it again? Well, I guess you've answered that.
We absolutely. So we're going to go in January. We're actually going to go on a Margaritaville cruise. So Margaritaville is fairly new. I think they've been around for a few years now, and we will get to do that on one of their inaugurals as well. So we have that booked, and we're certainly looking for opportunities to book for the whole family, because we would love to get the kids on there and have that shared family experience. But yeah, our first cruise, I mean, we were, you heard a lot of it, and hopefully the passion came through, and just how amazing, relaxing, how good the food was. That blew us away. I think we had a preconceived notion that the food would be so, and everything we had on board, from the French food, Indian food, steak, sushi, was just amazing. I mean, we were 4 foodies, so
I can tell you really enjoyed it. Did your wife enjoy it as much as you did?
Oh, she did. Absolutely. Yeah. So she is really, I would say, an evangelist at this point, for sure. We also, just thinking back about what some of our preconceived notions were, with cruising, like just being surrounded by the ocean didn't sound particularly exciting. We loved that. It was so beautiful, so relaxing. We went, through the Caribbean, and we were both just, looking at each other the whole time, like, this is just incredible. It's beautiful. The ocean is beautiful. So everything that we had thought about was kind of busted, and we were just like, felt very blessed and lucky to be able to do that. And now we're hooked.
I love to talk to someone just after their first cruise.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Aon Affinity Travel Practice. So tell us all about Aon Affinity Travel Practice.
Absolutely. So we provide and manage, put together and help consult the cruise lines and the largest travel suppliers in the market, on the best travel protection, travel insurance program for their guests. So we work in tandem with them to design the program. The programs are offered by them. So you might have Royal Caribbean Travel Protection or Norwegian Cruise Care. They vacation protection, I think, at Carnival and Princess. So it's really their product. We help package it up, look at their guests, look at their guest profile. We've been in this business since I think the 90s, so 30 plus years at this point. So we leverage that expertise to find the best product, the best insurance carrier with the right coverage levels for the guests. And then we work with them. They typically, one of the great things about a cruise line plan is that they contain a future cruise credit. So if for whatever reason the insurance doesn't cover you, you have that for any reason, you at least get a credit, and they're usually 90%, 75%. So you, regardless if something happens for whatever reason, you will still at least get a credit. That's something you don't typically find in the broader market, but we help put those plans together with the idea of protecting guests, being there for guests in their time of need, and certainly protecting them financially as well. So that's really what we are passionate about. And one of the things I'm really excited about Aon Travel Practice, our mission is, I think we really do make cruising possible for a lot of people. There's ones that are, kind of swimming naked, as it were. You never know when you're going to have an accident and the tide's going to go out. But for those who understand the risk, like you talked about, having a heart attack in South America, even having something in the Caribbean where you need to be helicoptered out, that can run $30,000, $50,000. It doesn't matter if you're 25 years old or if you're 65 years old. That's a big financial impact. And a lot of people, quite frankly, can't afford to take that risk. I couldn't afford to take that risk. And with the wisdom you talked about, to buy it every time. And that's what makes that possible. So for you to go enjoy and have that experience and not be worried and running that risk, that huge financial risk, that is a mission we are very passionate about. And then certainly being there for people when something does happen. We're very passionate about that as well, because we do have the opportunity to help orchestrate the care, orchestrate the return, make sure they're financially protected. And so we really look to be there in that moment of truth or the time of greatest need and be that lifeline back home for the guests. So that's kind of the core of our mission and what we're passionate about. And it really is all about finding the best protection, the best plan that fits the guest's need at the best possible price. So, yeah.
So my listeners can't call Aon and say, "Hey, I'm doing a world cruise and I want to buy coverage." What you do is you sell packages, insurance coverages that are branded by the cruise lines.
That is correct.
Okay.
So you would get it from Royal Caribbean. So when you're booking the cruise, you will get offered Royal Caribbean Travel Protection, and we administer that program. We work in conjunction, like I said, with Royal to make sure the right coverages are there, and then we administer claims, or if you have customer service questions, that comes to us. If you do call us directly, we can certainly direct you to the exact URL. I know it's a Royal Caribbean URL, but we can direct you to there to buy the coverage that way. So yeah, so we can accommodate you either way, but we do not sell plans direct.
Okay. Are you affiliated at all with Leisure Care, that package, or is that someone else?
Yeah, so Leisure Care is a plan that we administer and package up in conjunction with World Travel Holdings.
Okay. All right.
So yes, we are. World Travel Holdings is very large in cruise as well. And again, our expertise tends to be in cruise. So we absolutely work in conjunction and support World Travel Holdings in the delivery and construction of the Leisure Care product.
Okay. So listeners, the reason that I asked Scott that question is, as most of you know, we have a travel agency, the Joy of Vacation. Well, that is the Joy of Vacation by Dream Vacations, which is a part of World Travel Holdings. So if you book the
Oh,
cruise
wonderful.
through me, um, it's certainly your prerogative to get insurance from the cruise line. However, if you book a cruise through me, I will sell you insurance that is leisure care. Well, that's our insurance, and now I am happy to hear that uh, Scott manages a leisure care.
We do. We support that, and through World Travel Holdings, I'm delighted to hear that you're part of World Travel Holdings. Love them, long time client, just great folks over there, and doing wonders in the cruise business.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great to hear, Paul.
So I saw, Scott, your discussion with CLIA CEO Bud Daw at the
Yeah.
Cruise Forward Summit. Uh,
Yep.
Give us the bullet points of the discussion, and how talk about how you customize programs by cruise line, whatever you talked about with Bud.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to Bud and Clea. They're doing amazing things over there. And, that experience getting to go to Clea, have several interviews with him, getting to speak there was one of the highlights of my career. If I wasn't already excited about cruising, I was super on fire for cruising coming out of that. We talked about customizing coverage and how we look at the guests and the guest needs. We look at demographics, what's the right fit for the guest. We work with the cruise lines very closely to deeply understand their customers, to deliver the right product with the right coverages, and at the right price, without providing things that aren't needed, but really being there to provide exactly what is required of the guest, or what the guest requires and what we know they need. So that level of consulting is really a key part of our business, and it is done on an ongoing basis. So yeah, that's what I really talked to Bud about, and it really is all about understanding your customer, understanding cruise deeply, what can happen on the way to, during, on the way home, and making sure that at every point the guest is appropriately protected.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So as I've emphasized, I tell anyone who would listen to me to buy travel protection, but you have way more credibility than me. So explain the what and the why of travel protection for a cruise. Explain it in who was it? Michael on Office Space used to say, explain it to me like I'm in fifth grade or something like that. So explain it to the passengers. Well,
Sure.
not like they're in fifth grade, but explain it to the passengers in
Oh,
a way they can relate to. They don't
right.
need to hear it from me. They should hear it from an expert like you. Why should they get cruise insurance?
That's a great question. I would say, why should they get it? Because unexpected things happen. It does not discriminate. Doesn't matter who you are, how much money you have, where you're from, what your current health status is, what your age is. The unexpected does happen, and you cannot control it. And there are impacts. Certainly before the trip, it could cause you to lose your valuable trip investment. That's hard-earned money. It's usually not a small number. And so, that's one why. So if I have to cancel this trip, if I can't go, that's something to seriously consider. Can I live without that? Can I wait till next year or 2 years or however long it takes me to save that money back up? If something does happen to me while I'm on the cruise, am I covered? Most major Medicare does not cover you offshore, or won't cover medical evacuation. And those are extremely expensive costs. If you're in the Caribbean, an evac could run you between $30,000 and $60,000. So the cost of a very nice new car. If you are in the
Ooh.
Mediterranean, it could run you 150 to 300,000.
Oh my goodness.
The cost of a home. So there is a significant risk there for the unexpected that no matter, you know, like I said, who you are or what your health status is, those types of things can happen. A flight can be delayed.
Mhm.
It can have mechanical issues. There can be weather. You can't control that. And when that does happen, if you are not protected with travel insurance, you're out. I mean, there's no other way to say it. Yeah. No, go ahead.
You had mentioned some things, or I mentioned some things in the intro that you talked about that even take place before you get on the ship. You know, things like misconnection,
Yep.
lost luggage. I think you talked about delays, trip interrupt. I mean,
Right.
those are before you step foot on the ship.
Yeah, they are. Or you could get sick or hurt, or one of your loved ones could get sick or hurt months before. And that could, keep you from being able to go on your cruise. And at that point, you've already paid at least some, if not all, depending if, you're in full penalty at that point or in some level of penalty. And if you don't have coverage, you're out at that point. Or yeah, weather could come in the day you're supposed to fly out to Miami and you miss your cruise. I mean, that's pretty painful stuff and you can't control it.
Now say some more about what you had just said. When I was ignorant to cruise insurance, and then learned that it was important, even then I thought that it only covered the cruiser. But you just talked about how someone in your family gets ill. So help the listeners understand who would be considered uh, applicable under your cruise insurance, under your travel insurance package, who gets sick in your family. That's not even going on the cruise.
Right. In that it does vary. I mean, I would, my encouragement to your listeners would be to take a look at the definitions. It's usually called a covered family member. And that is going to cover anybody who really is related to you, who is a family member. So it could be, spouse, it could be child, parent, grandparent. So typically, covered family member is exactly what it sounds like, but certainly look at your policy. I don't want to speak too broadly and have someone think they're covered when they're not, something we are always very careful of. But yeah, if something, if one of your family members gets sick, that can typically be a covered event, cause you to have to cancel, and the insurance would kick in at that point. Yep.
What are some common questions travelers should ask about when they're talking to preferably me, the travel agent,
Absolutely.
or in fairness, directly to the cruise line? What are some common questions they should ask?
I think they should ask and make sure, like, really understand what is covered, and make sure they have adequate coverage, which as an agent you could certainly help them with. I think that's probably the biggest thing, and I think they need to ask themselves, what am I comfortable with? Am I okay if I can't go and I can't get my money back for this cruise? Generally, the answer is no. Do I have the financial wherewithal to have a medical issue? And can I cover that? Generally, the answer is no there. I think those are very good things to be aware of. And then look at the policy and ask your agent, ask the travel agent, the reservation agent, or if you're booking online, take a look at the coverage. Make sure you have trip cancellation, understand what's covered. Typically, it does not cover everything. It covers the most common reasons for cancellation. So you definitely want to take a look at that. And then, Yeah, I would say ask about exclusions and be aware of those. So you definitely want to know if, pre-existing conditions are covered. Usually there is a way to have those covered. Be aware of that. Be aware of exclusions like war. Unfortunately, we live in a world where that happens. Um, some in many cases too, alcohol. So that's always good to be aware of. I do enjoy a glass of wine with dinner and things like that. So you want to be aware of what where your coverage line is there. I think those are probably the biggest things you need to consider is do the homework. One common thing I see too, now that I'm thinking about it, Paul, is I think a lot of people will convince themselves they have coverage, like just because they think, oh, I've got this credit card, it has some coverage. And in some cases they do, in some cases they don't at all. Just think, oh, well, credit cards typically do. That's not accurate. And number two, usually the credit cards have very limited coverage. So in many cases, no medical. So when they're booking with you, I think it's easy to do that, feel like you check the box when really the box isn't checked, where a leisure product like leisure care really is still extremely applicable.
Scott,
Um,
I am so
yeah.
glad that you said that because sometimes I get on a lot of Facebook groups and there'll be Facebook cruise groups and there'll be
Mhm.
questions about travel insurance, and that's my opportunity to evangelize or what
Yeah.
have you. And I often get responses back, and I decide I don't want to argue with the person, so I'll get the response back and I'll kind of walk away at this point. I often get responses back, no, I never get travel insurance because my credit cards take care of that. And
Right.
I know that I doubt that's sufficient unless you have one of those credit cards where the annual fee is like, $1,000 a year, and and
Yeah.
you have $1 million credit, like, most credit
Right.
cards are not going to give you what, as you just, I'm not going to go over what you just said, and that's
Yeah.
why I'm so glad that you brought that up. So,
It,
listeners, for
yeah.
those of you who take comfort in the fact that you have some protection with credit cards, you don't have to take my word for it. What do I know? Take Scott's word for it. That's not enough.
Yeah. Correct. It is not. Those limits, especially in this day and age, medical evacuation costs, medical costs have been going up. I think they've doubled since the pandemic. They typically go up around 10% a year, meaning they double every 7 years. So, you know, gosh, 15 years ago, it cost like 13 to 15,000 to get out of the Caribbean. Now it's 30 to 50 or more. And the credit card coverages are, I can't think of one that I would say, yeah, that's sufficient. Uh, and so don't just check the box on faith. It's still worth a couple $100 to get good, solid coverage that will be sufficient for you. It's worth it.
Now, in the intro, I did say, or I suggested that demand is increasing for travel insurance benefits like emergency evacuation. Uh, uh, is that because of what you just said? Because the costs are just skyrocketing, and so people are realizing, yeah, I better get coverage.
Yes, I think it is. I think that is a big factor. Costs are skyrocketing. They have been going up significantly. I think they will continue to do so, unfortunately. And I think part of it is, yeah, more awareness from the pandemic and social media. To your earlier point, I think people have seen or know somebody, some story, and have a new appreciation for the level of expense that it takes to take care of you abroad, and certainly to get you home. If you have to come home on like a medical jet or a, helicopter, that is very expensive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Last thing about travel insurance, and then we'll talk a little bit about the future. Talk about what first-time cruisers, or even season cruise, first-time and season cruisers. What do cruisers often misunderstand about travel protection?
I think cruisers and in general, maybe season, not so much if they've had a claim. I think one of the prevailing misconceptions about most travel protection is that everything is covered, anything and everything. And that is not the case. Like I said, typically you want to look at the covered reasons. So for cancellation, and you're going to have your big ones in there: accident, sickness, death. I mean, there are a variety of covered reasons. I would say make sure you know what those are. You know, if you think you want total coverage, it might be worth looking at like a cancel for any reason policy, or a supplier plan that has a cancel for any reason future cruise credit. Those can add, layers of protection. So I would just be aware that, you know, the coverage is exceptional, especially if I know our plans are designed for exactly what we see in the cruise lines and in leisure care, for instance. So you're, very covered, but be aware that, not everything is covered. You can't just have a bad hair day typically and decide I don't want to go. And then find out the hard way that, well, that's not, just deciding you don't want to go is not really covered. It's there for the unexpected.
Well, Scott, the bad hair day was is a funny analogy, but say something more. Say a little more about cancel for any reason, because that's a very common phrase in
Yeah.
travel, in the travel protection arena, and and I think a lot of cruisers need to understand what a little more about what that means. So not to get too technical, but can you just give a brief say something about cancel for any reason policies?
Sure. Cancel for any reason allows you, by and large, there are some exceptions, to cancel for any reason. In some cases, you might want to aware there might be a blackout period 24 or 48 hours before. So do be aware there could be some stipulations depending on your policy, but cancel for any reason will provide you coverage truly for any reason. So you decide, I really don't want to go, or I need to move it, or I need the flexibility, or a wedding comes up, something like that, that would not typically be covered as a covered reason. Cancel for any reason will cover you there. Because of that, it's more expensive. It's usually 1.5 to 1.6 times the price of a typical policy because of that flexibility. Also, it's usually not 100% coverage, whereas if you have a covered reason, you get sick or something like that, it will be covered at 100% of your cruise cost. Cancel for any reason is usually 75% coverage. So there is kind of a built-in deductible there, because the coverage, it's all about being able to deliver coverage to people at a reasonable price. If you did 100% coverage, change anytime, then you're looking at almost like double the cost of a cruise for some coverage like that. That's just the way the math works. So that's really cancel for any reason in a nutshell. It gives you kind of the most possible flexibility around canceling for reasons that aren't specified or unexpected.
I like to think of cancel for any reason as a particular applicability to like professionals, key professionals in a workforce, and something
Sure.
comes up,
Mhm.
a merger comes up that obviously wasn't
Right.
you hadn't planned for, and you're the vice president of whatever, and they need you around.
Yeah.
And you can't leave for a cruise when you're about to have, the one of the nation's largest mergers or whatever. Uh, yeah,
That's right. That's a good reason. Yep.
I spent most of my much of my adult life as a small business owner. I own a chain of retail stores, and and sometimes it made, I love to cruise. I've cruised all my life, but it made cruising challenging at times. Uh, Although back then I didn't have enough wisdom to have travel insurance, but if I did, I would have had cancer for any reason. Being an entrepreneur, uh,
Yeah, that's a great reason to buy that when you need that extra flexibility beyond what's typically covered.
mhm.
That's a good reason. Yep.
Let's talk about the future. What does the future hold with Aon Affinity Travel Practice?
I think the future is very bright. And I'll say, I'm sure everybody is tired of hearing about AI at this point, but I do think there's a tremendous amount of value to cruisers to be unlocked um, via AI going forward. I think it will allow us in the not too distant future to truly personalize coverage more seamlessly. Right now, we have different packages depending on, the trip that you're taking, or potentially age, or, some broad swath kind of segment is what we call it. I think we'll be able to get to, okay, we know you. You've cruised before. Okay, you're traveling with aging parents and kids, multi-generational. Here's the perfect product, exactly what you need for you. So I think we'll be able to get to a new level of personalization within travel insurance. I think, we'll be able to access and deliver broader benefits, broader choice, more seamless, very fast, exceptional claims experiences as well. We're looking at that. Filing a claim can be challenging and complex, especially if it's a big medical claim or something like there's a lot of documentation that needs to be provided. I think AI and improvement in technology will make that a lot easier for our guests, which is always our end goal. Uh, so I think the future for those reasons looks very bright. Uh, just the capabilities and almost the sky's the limit that can be unlocked uh, with some of the AI technology that we're dealing with and working with now. So I think it's an exciting time. And I think you'll see a lot of that in the cruise experience too. I can definitely see a time when you get to your room and it knows who you are, knows the temperature that you like, knows the pillows that you like, knows you have access to whatever your home entertainment is there. I can see that coming down the road in the not too distant future. So pretty cool.
Scott, before we let
Yeah.
you go, we like to ask our guests some light, dare I say, even fun cruise questions. And senior executives like fun too. So,
Yes.
first question is, how do you spend your me time when you are not working on insurance products?
Yeah, great question. For me, it's mostly going to be with my kiddos. With 7 of them, I have them across the board. Oldest one's in college. I've got them in various sports, volleyball, football. So I love to spend time with my wife and kids. I'd say that's the next, big deal. When it's just me, my thing is going to the gym, staying healthy. Uh, work out with my best friend. He and I have been working out together for 10 years. We try to do that 5 days a week, and we've been very consistent over the 10 years. So that keeps me grounded, centered. I'd say that's the biggest thing. Yeah, so that's kind of my current life.
I know that you haven't cruised much yet, but what is on your cruise and travel bucket list? Where do you want to
Ooh.
go before it's all said and done?
I think the next one my wife and I would really like to do, there are several. I think we'd love to do the Mediterranean. I think that would be just a great experience. My wife has not been to Europe yet, so I think that would be a great way to experience maybe Italy. You know, some of the different coasts there, Amalfi. I think that's probably at the top of our list. In terms of bucket list, I would love to get up to Alaska. That would be a close second as well. I've just heard everybody rave about that's the best way to see Alaska is on a cruise.
Yeah, I would.
Uh,
If we had more time, I would rave about it as well.
Awesome.
And same thing with the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah. I think,
did our
like I said
anniversary
before,
there.
the ability to oh, wonderful. Well, congrats
Yeah,
to you. That's exciting.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it would be a big anniversary. So maybe next year. We're coming up on 25.
yep.
So might be time to start planning that.
Well, I'll make you a offer, Scott. I like to have guests back, especially guests I've enjoyed. Well, I enjoy talking to all of my guests. So we're going to have you back. We're going to offer, make you an offer to come back. Not to talk about insurance, unless there's some new developments in insurance. But you have 2 milestone cruises coming up, or possibly coming up. One is for your 25th anniversary. And the other is the first cruise that you take all the kids on. So either one of those, whichever comes first, you have an open invitation to come back on the show and just do a cruise report. Just talk about your reflections of the cruise. You don't even have to say a word about insurance.
Love it. I would be delighted. And we can get into insurance too if you want. I'm always happy to do it, but I would be honored to come back and talk about those cruises.
All right.
Thank you, Paul.
All right. Well, Scott, it has been great talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on the Joy of Cruising podcast and providing the listeners with a perspective that is just so important. And I have been waiting, as I said earlier, I've been waiting for the right person to address it. And I found that person. Thank you for doing so. All the best to you and Aon in your future endeavors. And as I like to say, we'll see you on the ocean.
Love it. Thank you so much, Paul. Really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.
All right.
And man, you do a great job. You're so easy to talk to. I was nervous. I shouldn't have been. It was awesome.
Oh, well,
thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I had you on, and enjoy the rest of your day.
The Joy of Cruising and Cruising Interrupted, each $16.99 plus shipping, and new release, The Joy of Cruising Again for $18.99 can be ordered at the link on thejoyofcruisingpodcast.com. For each of the 3 books, use the discount code Joy of Cruising Podcast and get $4 off. The Joy of Cruising books are also available at Amazon. Order the ebook at Amazon or your favorite online retailer. Stay in touch by joining the Joy of Cruising Podcast Facebook group or following the Joy of Cruising Podcast on Instagram. We're constantly adding new shows. Please leave a review and tell a friend about us. We hope you enjoyed this brief escape to the ocean. See you next week.